out. You should be grateful you even get to live here. Eat it.
Please, my child. I can't eat this.
Oh my God! Oh. Adesua, what did you make my mother do?
Welcome, dear friend, to a story filled with tears, yet overflowing with hope. A story that will make you reflect on love, on wounds that never fully heal, and on the extraordinary power of compassion. You're watching Afritala's Etike, where African stories are told with raw emotion, deep understanding, and a heart full of empathy. If this story touches your heart, please give it a like. Subscribe to Afritala's Etike, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that speak to the soul. And now, let us begin today's tale. A story of childhood scars, forgiveness, and the final ray of light that saved a broken heart. Kola once believed Adesua was the perfect woman, gentle, strong, and intelligent. She walked into his life like a warm candle in the freezing darkness that followed his father's passing. From the way she held his hand the night they first met, to the tender way she cared for Mama Tade on those early visits home, Kola had thought, even my father, watching from heaven, would smile knowing I married this woman. But perfection is sometimes only a thin mist hiding what lies beneath. After the wedding, things began to shift. Softly at first, but unmistakably, Adesua grew wary of everything. She wanted control over their bank accounts. She wanted to know where Kola went, who he met, who he spoke to. His closest friends slowly drifted away because every time they visited, Adesua's eyes followed them like she was dissecting every breath. But what broke Kola's heart the most was how she changed toward Mama Tade. Mama Tade had always been the embodiment of gentleness, a woman who had weathered life's storms just to raise her son into a decent man. She never asked for anything. All she wanted was to see her son happy, no matter which woman he chose. Yet to Adesua, Mama Tade's very existence felt like some strange threat. It began with small, cutting comments. She looked at me weird. I feel like she doesn't like me. Is she trying to turn you against me? Kola denied it every time, tried to explain, but slowly he felt torn. Between the mother who had given him everything, and the wife he loved, who seemed to be drowning in her own fears. Mama Tade only smiled. She never spoke harshly of Adesua, never complained, not even once. Whenever Kola asked, "Mom, are you okay? Did Adesua do something to upset you?" She gently shook her silver head and replied, "It's nothing, my son. A new wife worries a lot. I understand." But Adesua's worry wasn't like other brides. It was sharper, dragging behind it memories she had buried so deep that not even Kola, the man she loved, could reach them. Sometimes at night, Kola woke to the sound of her muffled sobs. He held her close, but she only whispered, "It's nothing. Just old nightmares." Yet every time Mama Tade came near, Adesua's eyes changed. Not hatred, but fear mixed with anger, as if the old woman's presence poked at wounds that had never healed. Day by day, Adesua's jealousy grew into something dangerous. She checked Kola's messages, questioned him when he was even a few minutes late, and blamed Mama Tade for trying to steal him away. Kola felt suffocated. But he kept telling himself, she just needs time. She just needs more love. He didn't know. Love is sometimes not enough to hold together a breaking soul. Adesua, meanwhile, hid her cracks well. In front of relatives, she was the perfect daughter-in-law pouring tea, smiling sweetly, calling Mama with warmth. In front of Kola's friends, she was the selfless wife who adored her husband. But when it was just her and Mama Tade alone in the house, another woman emerged. A woman full of hurt, suspicion, and fractures shimmering beneath that sweet exterior Kola had learned to trust. And like every tragedy, it didn't happen in a day. It began with small signs, careless words, averted eyes, forced smiles, until even Kola, the man who believed in love so deeply, could no longer tell what was real and what was the carefully woven performance that had enveloped his home. for the sweet lies of a deeply wounded woman had already blinded him. Adesua carried every childhood wound in secret, invisible scars no one could see, yet they gnawed at her every single night. She had once been tormented by a stepmother who forced her to kneel and eat on the floor like someone unworthy of love. On cold, windy nights, she curled into a corner of her room, listening to the screaming, the slamming doors, and the whip cracking against wooden floors as if it were tearing her small soul apart. Those memories, clinging to her heart like a darkness that never fades, had twisted her mind in ways even she couldn't fully understand. And instead of seeking healing, she poured all those buried terrors onto Mama Tade, the gentlest woman in Cola's life. It began with sharp, cutting remarks, each one sounding like a fragment of her poisoned past spilling out. "You're making my house dirty. Don't touch my things. Watch where you walk. Do you understand?" Mama Tade only bowed her head, her voice trembling but patient. "I'm sorry, Adesua. I'll be more careful." But her patience meant to soothe only enraged Adesua more. Every gentle word from Mama Tade echoed the voice of the stepmother she once feared, the woman who stole her childhood and left wounds that never healed. Then came the small acts. So small that Cola, overwhelmed and blindly trusting, never noticed. Lunch pushed to 4 p.m., her back pain medicine suddenly running out. Mops and buckets placed in low corners that forced her aging body to bend dozens of times. Some days the kitchen lights went out, and the security cameras malfunctioned without explanation. And if Cola asked, Adesua simply smiled. "I don't know. Maybe your mother forgot, or the equipment is old. I'll take care of it." And Mama Tade, gentle, selfless, afraid of causing trouble, never complained. She believed her daughter-in-law was just stressed, just adjusting. She feared speaking up would break Cola's heart. So like so many mothers who have spent their lives sacrificing, she endured, quietly, painfully, hoping things would change. But Adesua did not change. She only sank deeper into the toxic maze of her own memories. Each time she saw Mama Tade walk by, it felt like seeing the terrified young girl she once was, trapped again in that cold, dark house. Each time Mama Tade touched her hand, she heard her stepmother's voice screaming in her face, "Useless parasite, no one wants you." The truth was simple. Mama Tade had done nothing wrong. But Adesua's mind could no longer distinguish reality from old nightmares. It reacted only with fear and fury. One afternoon, Mama Tade was hanging laundry when a sharp pain shot through her back, forcing her to lean against the wall. Adesua stood in the kitchen doorway, watching her. Her eyes did not see the kind, aging woman before her. They saw the ghost of a tormentor from a childhood she could not forget. "You're this weak, and you think you can help?" Her voice was cold. "A woman like you only makes this house worse." Mama Tade tried to smile. "I'm sorry, dear. I'll try my best." "Try?" Adesua let out a laugh, a jagged metallic sound scraping against the tiles. "And what exactly are you trying to do? Make more work for me?" Mama Tade didn't answer. She only lowered her head, pressed a trembling smile to her lips, and walked away. As her frail figure disappeared down the hallway, something in Adesua's chest tightened, like an old wound tearing open again. But she pushed the feeling deep down, burying it beneath the rage she believed kept her strong. Day by day, her need for control grew harsher. She didn't just want Mama Tade to obey. She wanted her to feel the same humiliation she once endured. Hiding her medicine, forcing her to do heavy chores, denying her meals, locking the refrigerator when Cola wasn't home, turning off cameras to erase the evidence. She was creating a private battlefield inside the house, and Mama Tade was the only one trapped in it. But no matter how well she hid it, Adesua's mind was unraveling. Thread by thread, tear by tear. Until one day, the pressure inside her finally exploded. Cola came home earlier than planned because his business partner canceled their meeting at the last minute. He drove through the afternoon rain, feeling surprisingly excited about surprising his wife and his mother with dinner. He had been busy all week, and tonight felt like the perfect night to make it up to them. He even bought Mama Tade her favorite cake, the sweet pastry she used to eat back in her rural hometown. Cola smiled, imagining the way her face would light up. He had no idea he was driving straight into a moment that would change his life forever. The moment he stepped inside, something felt wrong. It wasn't the warm smell of soup Mama Tade usually cooked. It wasn't the soft sound of Adesua humming in the kitchen. Instead, he heard something else, a muffled sound, a stifled sob, and then a bowl crashing violently against the tiles. Cola froze. His heart slammed against his ribs. Then he heard his mother's voice so weak it could have been carried away by the slightest breeze. "Adesua, please, my child. Don't make me do this." A cold shiver ran down Cola's legs. He set the bag of cake on the table, taking slow, cautious steps, as if moving too quickly might shatter whatever fragile thing was left. But then came the dragging shuffle of old slippers on tile, a sound of exhaustion, of helplessness. And after that, a sharp, furious scream. "Eat I say eat." Cola didn't think. He ran, straight toward the sound. He burst into the kitchen, and he saw the most brutal sight of his entire life. Adesua, the woman he married, the woman he once believed was his life's miracle, was gripping Mama Tade by the hair, forcing her to kneel before a filthy toilet. Mama Tade's hands trembled violently as she tried to steady herself, a bowl of rice soaked with dirty water spilling between her shaking fingers. The mixture dripped onto the tiles, sending a nauseating smell into the air. Cola went numb. His mind spun. Every tender moment he'd shared with Adesua shattered instantly into dust, and then his roar ripped through the kitchen. "Adesua! What are you doing?" Adesua flinched, stumbling backward. Her eyes were bloodshot wild, terrified, unrecognizable. For a second, she didn't even look like herself. Mama Tade slowly lifted her head. Tears, or maybe dirty water, ran down her cheeks. Her whole body shook like a leaf caught in a cold storm. "Cola," her voice cracked, barely holding together. "Don't blame her. She's been hurt. So much." That single sentence, gentle, forgiving, heartbreakingly kind, stabbed Cola deeper than anything he had ever felt. In that moment, as she knelt before a toilet, as that foul water dripped from the bowl onto her lap, as the most gentle woman he knew was forced into pure humiliation, she begged him not to blame the person hurting her, not to defend herself, not to ask for help, but to protect the woman who had dragged her into this nightmare. Even in her suffering, a mother chose compassion over anger. And that was the moment Cola's heart shattered completely. Adesua collapsed to the floor, clutching her head, crying and screaming like a child dragged back into an old nightmare. "I didn't want to do it," she cried, her voice cracking through the entire kitchen. "But every time I see her, I remember what they did to me. I can't take it." Hot tears streamed down her face, mixing with the violent tremors running through her body. She looked as if she were fighting the ghosts of her own past, ghosts no one, not even Cola, had ever truly seen. Cola stood there, his heart choking in his chest. He wanted to be angry. He wanted to shout at his wife for what she had done to his mother. But seeing her curled up on the floor, sobbing like a lost child begging to escape her memories, all he felt was another kind of pain, the pain of a soul that had gone far too long without proper love. Adesua didn't resist when they took her to get psychological treatment. She sat quietly in the car, tears soaking her cheeks, her eyes empty, as if she had lost her sense of direction completely. Cola saw that emptiness and understood. If he had been one day late, this tragedy might have become something unrecoverable. The first therapy sessions were filled with silence. Adesua spoke very little, bursting into tears whenever her childhood was mentioned. But slowly, the hard shell around her heart began to crack. Stories she had buried all her life, nights of starvation, beatings, the screaming that still made her tremble even as an adult, finally spilled out. The therapist told Cola, "She isn't a monster. She's a survivor of severe childhood trauma, but she never received help. And when she met your mother, her mind reacted to old fear, not reality. Hearing that felt like a blade twisting in Cola's chest. He went home every night and cared for his mother with trembling hands carrying a guilt he couldn't name. "Mom, I'm sorry," was the sentence he said more than anything else. "I didn't see it. I didn't pay attention." Mama Tade would simply place her hand on his cheek, stroking him the way she used to when he was little. Her gentle smile, tired, aching, yet warm like firelight, never faded. "Cola, you are not to blame," she whispered softly. "That girl, she has been hurting for a long time. I just didn't want her to feel abandoned. I know what that fear feels like." Cola bowed his head, tears dripping onto her hand. He couldn't understand how his mother could remain so forgiving, after everything she had endured. In the days that followed, the bond between mother and son grew quiet but deeper. Cola learned to meet his mother's eyes without avoiding the pain. He prepared her meals, gave her medicine, and supported her gentle steps around the small courtyard. He noticed her back had bent more, her hands had weakened, but her heart remained steady and bright. As for Adesua, though away from home, she called every week. Every phone call began in silence, then with apologies breaking apart like shattered glass. "Mother, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what I've become." And Mama Tade, the very woman she had tormented, replied, with only one sentence, "My child, I'm listening. No blame. No anger, just an invisible embrace reaching across the phone line." Because to Mama Tade, forgiveness wasn't weakness. It was the strength of a mother's heart, a heart always larger than the pain inflicted upon it. Someone once said, "Childhood wounds left unhealed will become the blade that hurts the ones who love us most." Cola never truly understood that saying, not until the day he saw his wife, the woman he once believed had saved his life, collapse beneath the weight of the dark memories she had spent years trying to bury. Watching Adesua during those first therapy sessions made Cola's heart feel like stone. She sat there without makeup, without her practiced smile, without the armor she used to wear. Just a small, fragile woman with vacant eyes and trembling hands, as if letting go for even a second would cause her to crumble into dust. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't a monster. She wasn't the heartless woman he had seen in that kitchen. She was a child who had been abandoned, beaten, humiliated. A child who survived by forging an iron shell around herself. But that shell eventually became the very thing that wounded the people who loved her. One day, the therapist said to Cola, with a voice gentle yet heavy, "What Adesua did was very wrong. But it was driven by trauma she never learned to face. She doesn't know how to love without fear." Those words took days for Cola's heart to digest. He replayed every sharp remark, every controlling gesture, every suspicious glance. And he began to understand they were not signs of dominance, but the cries of a soul that had never known safety. Cola learned a lesson he would carry for the rest of his life. Loving someone isn't just staying when they're beautiful and strong. Loving them is choosing to stay even when their darkness shows, and seeing the parts they're terrified to reveal. But love requires strength. And his strength, he realized, came from one person, Mama Tade. During Adesua's treatment, Mama Tade healed slowly. Her back still ached, her steps were still slow, yet her eyes surprisingly remained gentle, bright, full of compassion. Cola asked her many times, "Mom, do you hate Adesua? After everything she did to you?" Mama Tade simply placed her warm, aging hand on his and shook her head. "Cola, the one who suffers the most is not me. It's Adesua. She lived in darkness for so long that when she finally saw the light, she didn't know what to do with it." Cola swallowed hard. How could a mother be so forgiving? How could she offer grace to someone who had humiliated her so deeply? But Mama Tade did not see Adesua as an attacker. She saw her as a reflection of her own younger self, lonely, fragile, afraid of the dark, surviving in silence. One afternoon, with wind sweeping through the hospital window, Adesua called Cola. Her voice trembled so softly that he had to hold his breath just to hear her. "Kola, if your mother wants, you can tell her she doesn't have to forgive me. I don't deserve it. I know that." Kola closed his eyes, pain tightening in his chest. He looked at his mother folding towels nearby, her silver hair glowing in the afternoon light. She glanced up and asked, "She's calling? Give me the phone." Adesua went silent the moment Mama Tade's warm, quilt-soft voice came through. "Adesua, my daughter, you may not be able to forgive yourself right now, but I forgive you. I don't abandon people, especially not someone who is trying to stand again." On the other end of the line came quiet sobs, not screams, not resistance, just the pure, fragile crying of a child who had finally found her way out of the dark. Kola turned away to hide his wet eyes. He understood then. Forgiveness is not erasing what happened. Forgiveness is giving someone a chance to find themselves again. And the one who gave that chance was not him, nor the doctor, nor time. It was his mother, Mama Tade, a woman whose heart had spent a lifetime soothing the wounds of others. With her boundless kindness, Mama Tade became the final light that guided Adesua back to herself. And this story reminds us, sometimes what we need most is not judgment, but an embrace warm enough to heal the past. In life, each of us carries wounds no one else can see. There are memories we think have fallen asleep, yet all it takes is one small moment for them to rise again, hurting us, and hurting the very people who love us the most. Today's story reminds us of something important. Not everyone who does something wrong is a bad person. Sometimes they are simply victims of a past that was never allowed to heal. And it also reminds us that kindness, no matter how small, can become a guiding light for a soul stumbling through darkness. Just like Mama Tade, who chose forgiveness over judgment, who chose to open her heart instead of closing it. Her compassion became the final light that helped Adesua find her way back to herself. Thank you for listening to this emotional journey all the way to the end. Your presence here, every minute you spend with these stories, gives us the strength to continue creating tales that touch the heart and heal the wounds we often hide deep inside. You're watching Afrital as a TK, where African stories are told with empathy, understanding, and the truest emotions we can offer. If this story made you pause, made you reflect on love, on forgiveness, or on the quiet pain many people carry, please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to Afrital as a TK, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another meaningful story. Your support helps our community grow warmer, kinder, and more connected. And before you go, please leave a comment below. Where are you watching Afrital as a TK from? Whether you're in Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, South Africa, the United States, Europe, or anywhere else in the world, we are deeply grateful that this story found its way to you. Thank you for being here. Wishing you peace, healing, and the strength to find your own light, even in your darkest days.